If you're listening to this, you probably know the cycle all too well. I mean, we've all been there. It's that cycle of momentum and then just collapse. You start the week so strong, you're full of ambition, you have the plan laid out, but then pretty soon that energy it fades. You crash.
And you know what you should be doing. That's the painful part.
Exactly. You know the hard, uncomfortable work is sitting right there, but instead, procrastination kicks in. Or fear just paralyzes you before you even start.
Or you just delay. You tell yourself, I'll do it tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yep.
The classic. And that feeling, that deep in your gut feeling of knowing your potential, but constantly sabotaging it. That is the exact pain point we are going to tear apart today.
And that pain, that constant feeling of self-betrayal, it's rooted in a really fundamental misconception. It's a lie we've all been sold about how success works.
Which is what?
Most people believe the cure for that weakness, for getting stalled, is motivation. They're waiting for this sudden jolt of inspiration or enthusiasm to strike them like lightning.
Right, like you'll just wake up one day and finally feel like doing the hard thing.
Precisely. But the manual for self-mastery that we are dissecting today, it delivers a brutal, but I think necessary truth. Motivation is utterly unreliable.
It's a feeling.
It's just a feeling, and feelings come and go. They're the absolute worst foundation to build a life on.
So just to set the stage for everyone listening, this is not a feel-good strategy guide. We're not here to make you feel comfortable.
Not at all.
This is an uncompromising wake-up call. It's really tailor-made for anyone who is just tired of being held hostage by their own moods, their own feelings.
Yeah.
The central, unavoidable premise, and we need to establish this from the very first breath, is this. If you wait until you feel ready or capable or inspired, you will wait forever.
Forever. The cure for weakness isn't some magic feeling. It's forced discipline. And that's what this deep dive is all about, taking total self-control.
So let's define that word discipline, because it gets thrown around a lot. How is the source material defining it?
It defines it very precisely, and it strips away any of the softer interpretations. The source is adamant. Discipline is, and I'm quoting here, forcing yourself to do what must be done even when you don't want to.
Even when you don't want to. That's the part that matters.
That is the only part that matters. This is the essential truth. It is the dividing line separating the people who are successful from the people who just perpetually intend to be successful.
It's a conscious decision then.
It's a conscious decision to build your life on a foundation of action, of commitment, rather than on the shifting sand of, some fleeting emotion.
Okay. So our mission today is to tear into this guide. We're going to extract the hard truths, the non-negotiable discipline hacks that you need to systematically kill that weak mindset.
And we're going past theory. This isn't abstract.
No vague goals. We're focusing entirely on the concrete protocols you can implement to operate at a higher non-negotiable standard. And you can start immediately.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's unpack this core philosophical shift first. We have to confront a reality that I think most people want to avoid. Discipline isn't something you just stumble upon.
No, it's not a lucky find.
It is a conscious, and let's be honest, often painful choice that has to be forced into your life. It requires you to take a stand against your default setting.
And for 99% of people, that default setting is comfort.
Always comfort.
And this confrontational stance, it's absolutely crucial, because the primary enemy we're fighting here, laziness, it's not stupid. It is extremely cunning.
That's a great way to put it.
The source material warns us. It says you have to treat laziness like a master negotiator, a con man, and you have to refuse to give it even an inch of leverage.
So what happens when you start to negotiate?
The moment you decide to negotiate with it, for example, you tell yourself, oh, I deserve a break, or one skip day won't hurt. I'll just, I'll double up tomorrow.
Which you never do.
You never do. The moment you have that thought, you lose the argument instantly.
Why? Why so quickly?
Because laziness never runs out of excuses. It is infinitely patient, it's incredibly persuasive in the moment, and it knows exactly what to say to get you to back down.
I think that's where we need to spend some time. We have to analyze just how deeply insidious laziness has become, especially in modern life.
Right.
It doesn't look like the cliche anymore.
No, it's not just sitting on the couch doing nothing. It has evolved.
It's disguised itself.
Yeah.
So based on the core source material, what are the most common disguises that we should be looking out for?
The list is long, but they all share one quality. They feel productive or necessary, but they are specifically designed to help you avoid the core difficulty.
Okay, like what?
Well, laziness disguises itself as Endless information gathering. You know this one, paralysis by analysis. You read the 10th article on a topic instead of just starting the work.
Or watching another YouTube video about how to be productive instead of actually being productive.
Exactly. It also manifests as obsessive organization, spending hours perfectly color-coding your files, setting up the perfect digital workspace, but never actually using those files to create the final product.
It feels like you're getting ready to work.
It mimics the feeling of progress without any of the effort, but maybe the most common one today. It disguises itself as endless phone scrolling or consumption.
The black hole.
Right. And you tell yourself, oh, this is a necessary mental break, but it's not. It's pure distraction. It prevents your brain from ever having to engage in the deep, demanding thought that real progress requires.
That distinction right there. The difference between real work and what you call displacement activity. That is the key insight you have to develop.
It is.
Progress is always found in the difficult, demanding activity. Always. If you're doing something that feels easy and comfortable, something that gives you that instant low-level reward, you're almost certainly avoiding the real work.
100%. That easy activity is just laziness winning the war through a series of small proxy battles.
It truly is the enemy of the future. I mean, your future self isn't built on what you intended to do. It's built on the painful, focused actions you took today.
That's it.
So let's dive deeper into that dangerous negotiation trap. When you wake up and you feel that inertia, that, mental weight telling you to just stay put, that's the moment. That's when discipline is required.
That's the battleground.
And when you choose comfort over action, that choice isn't neutral. It's not a harmless decision. It is actively conditioning your mind. What's the neurological mechanism at play here?
Whether every single time you choose the easy path, you are strengthening the neural pathway that links hard task with avoidance and comfort.
So you're literally training yourself to quit.
You're training yourself to quit. It's a form of self-betrayal that compounds over time. Those small excuses, hitting snooze, delaying that one essential phone call, eating the unnecessary junk food, they aren't just wasted minutes, they are reps.
Reps in the gym of weakness.
Exactly. You are building the habit of surrender. So when life actually demands focus, when you need to perform under real pressure, your mind will just default to the habit you've been building for months.
The habit of quitting when things get difficult.
Yes. That becomes your automatic response.
That means the real cost of procrastination isn't just lost time. That's what people miss. The real cost is the erosion of self-trust.
That's the core of it.
You are teaching yourself day by day that your commitments are meaningless, that your word to yourself means nothing.
Precisely. And the consequence of that self-doubt down the line is absolutely devastating. You become the person who can't rely on themselves. Your decisions become conditional, totally dependent on your mood.
I'll do it if I feel like it.
Which is a recipe for a life of mediocrity. And that is why the source advocates for an absolute total refusal to negotiate. It's about building a character that acts independent of feeling.
Which brings us back to the power of that refusal. So refusing to negotiate. It's not self-punishment. People frame it that way, but it's not. It is the highest form of self-respect.
I agree completely.
It's you saying, my future is worth this temporary discomfort. My goals are non-negotiable. You're establishing self-worth through consistent action, not through, passive self-affirmation or just telling yourself you're great.
This clarity, this is the perfect transition into the next point. Motivation is optional. Discipline is law.
The big one.
People treat motivation as the prerequisite for action. They are literally waiting to feel it. But Chapter 10 in the source confirms that motivation is, at best, a fleeting luxury. If you build your life on feelings, you will be inconsistent. You have to be, because feelings are transient.
Okay, so if we strip away motivation, if we say we can't rely on it, what's left? How do we operate?
What's left is the truth. And the truth is that action creates its own energy.
Say it again.
Action creates its own energy. You don't need inspiration to start. You need discipline to start. And what you'll find is that inspiration, that feeling of momentum, it's often the result of action, not the cause of it.
So how does the disciplined mindset condition itself to act regardless of feelings? When you wake up tired, bored, uninspired, what's the mechanism?
It's all about conditioning over inspiration. It involves recognizing that the initial mental resistance you feel, That's just static. It's noise. It's not a real signal.
It's your lazy brain talking.
It's your lazy brain talking.
Yeah.
The action center of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, it has to override the emotional center, the limbic system, through forced compliance. And the rule is the mechanism you use to force that compliance.
Okay, let's define that. The non-negotiable standard the source talks about. What does that look like in practice for someone listening right now?
It looks like creating clear, precise rules that are entirely independent of your mood, your physical state, or the weather outside.
So, an example.
If the rule is, I run 3 miles at 6 a.m., the disciplined person does not wake up and debate that decision based on how late they went to bed, or whether it's raining, or if they have a slight headache. The rule is the law.
The standard removes the debate.
It completely removes the debate. And when you stop debating, you eliminate the foothold that laziness uses to launch its negotiation. You give it no room to operate.
So it's the constant, relentless repetition of that standard that conditions the behavior.
Yes, until acting on that standard becomes automatic. You are literally moving from a life driven by erratic, fleeting emotions, what you could call a feeling-driven life, to one governed by established, robust principles. An identity-driven life.
That's a powerful distinction.
The transformation is from, I hope I feel like exercising today, to, I am the type of person who exercises at this time every day. The feeling is completely irrelevant.
Okay, so once we've made that decision, once we've decided we are going to stop negotiating, the question shifts. It's no longer if we act, it's how fast we act.
Yes.
And this brings us to the core truth of Section 2. The action protocol. Chapter 2 in the source material is all about the power of immediate action.
And this is where we get really specific about the behavior. This is the practical side. Discipline is built in these tiny micro actions that are taken at the precise moment they are needed.
Not later. Right now.
Right now. Every single second you delay weakens your internal resolve. Instant action is the foundation of strength because it short-circuits that entire system of excuses before they can even form.
This is where the psychology gets really fascinating.
Yeah.
And the source material is very clear on this mechanism. When you think of doing something hard, writing that difficult email, starting that big project, your brain, within a window of about 5 seconds, is already trying to conserve energy.
It's a survival mechanism, really. That quick veto mechanism is your limbic system screaming, danger, effort required, abort.
Exactly. And that small window, that 5-second window of opportunity, is where the mind creates all the arguments against the tough task.
Right, that's when it whispers, you're too tired for this, or it's not that urgent, or just wait until you've had some coffee.
Those excuses are the cognitive system's attempt to rationalize avoidance. So how does instant action beat that?
Instant action bypasses it entirely. If you move, physically move, before that 5-second window closes, the excuses simply have no time to take shape. You win the moment you engage your motor system before your cognitive system can launch a successful veto.
So how do we enforce that instant response? This is where that practical hack comes in, the 3-2-1 move rule.
So simple, but so effective.
When you identify a necessary task, you literally count down from 3. 3, 2, 1. And you physically move. It's an instruction, not a thought process.
The countdown is brilliant because it serves as an interrupt function. It shifts your focus from the complexity or the difficulty of the task to the absolute simplicity of the action.
It's just a number.
It's just a number. It doesn't allow for rumination or debate.
Yeah.
You're counting down to engaging your body, a physical commitment, and that commitment then drags your mind along with it.
And over time, that forced repetition, it builds a new reflex.
It does. The feeling of forced effort slowly fades, and it's replaced by the automatic response of a trained, disciplined individual.
I think we need to really talk about the depth of the consequences of delay. A delay doesn't just push the task back an hour. It's so much more damaging than that.
Oh, it erodes the fundamental contract you have with yourself.
Yes. When you delay, you feel that internal weight of disappointment. You knew what was required of you, and you failed to execute. You let yourself down.
And that feeling of small regret, it compounds daily. It builds into frustration, and if you repeat it consistently, it transitions into full-blown self-doubt.
You learn to distrust your own ability to follow through.
Yes, you become unreliable to yourself. But conversely, acting immediately, even on something tiny.
Like what?
Like getting out of bed the moment the alarm rings. No snooze. Or picking up that book you said you'd read instantly. Those small wins fuel a sense of profound self-respect.
You're proving to yourself, moment by moment, that your actions are aligned with your decisions.
You become trustworthy to yourself. And that creates the momentum, the real tangible momentum you need to tackle the bigger challenges.
And that momentum is sustained through the next part of this, forcing repetition to make new behavior natural. This is from chapter 4.
It all comes back to patterns. Human behavior is fundamentally built on patterns. If you spend years repeating the pattern of avoidance, avoidance becomes your natural state.
It becomes who you are.
It becomes your identity. But if you repeat the pattern of strength, strength becomes automatic. We have to literally rewire our brains for discipline through deliberate, forced repetition.
Until the behavior shifts from feeling awkward and difficult to feeling normal.
Exactly. The first few times you try anything difficult, meditating for 10 minutes, getting up at 5 a.m., doing an hour of focused, deep work, it feels heavy. It feels wrong.
That initial discomfort, that's not a signal to quit. And I think that's what people misunderstand.
It is the exact opposite of a signal to quit. It is the sign that your brain is pushing back against a new pathway. It's the friction of neurological adjustment. It's a sign that it's working.
And the tragedy is that most people quit right there. They hit that resistance signal and they wrongly interpret it as, oh, this isn't for me, or I'm just not cut out for this kind of thing.
But if you quit at that moment, you are training your brain to resist even more strongly the next time you try. You're validating its internal veto. You have to push past that initial manufactured discomfort to break the resistance cycle.
The emphasis here then has to be on consistency versus intensity.
Absolutely. The brain learns through rhythm, through predictable repetition. Doing one massive burst of effort, an all-night cram session, an intense weekend diet, and then collapsing for a week does not rewire the system.
It just reinforces the cycle of burnout and recovery.
Exactly. The source is very clear on this. Daily repetition, like reading just 2 pages of a difficult book every single day, is neurologically superior and far more effective than trying to read 100 pages randomly once a month.
Daily repetition is the engine that forges discipline.
It is.
This leads us to what I think is the most critical challenge, the middle stage. This is where most aspirations go to die.
The plateau of latent potential.
You're forcing the action daily, but the novelty is gone, the results aren't visible yet, and the process has just become monotonous. It's boring, and the brain craves novelty. How does the source tell us to push through that stage when the results feel so distant?
You survive the monotony by focusing solely on execution, not on expectation. You have to learn to fall in love with the process itself.
Trust the process.
You have to trust that the repetition is carving deep, efficient grooves into your subconscious. The deeper that groove gets, the easier the action becomes, and the less mental effort is required for you to do it next time.
So it's a long-term investment.
This kind of persistence is more valuable than any amount of motivation because it's a commitment to the process, not just a desire for the outcome.
And what's the ultimate payoff of all this forced repetition?
The ultimate payoff is the identity shift. Every single repetition builds incontrovertible evidence. Each small act of defiance against comfort proves to your subconscious that you are capable.
So you move from saying, I am trying to be disciplined.
Which implies failure is not just possible, but imminent.
They're internalizing, I am disciplined.
Yes. You stop fighting with willpower every day because you are simply living out who you have now become. You start by carrying the habit, and eventually the habit carries you.
We've established the external action protocol, the what to do.
Yeah.
But the greatest, most continuous battles are always fought inside the mind.
Always.
Chapter 3 of The Source focuses on this internal discipline, controlling your thoughts before they control your decisions. It makes the point that if you don't manage what's happening in your head, your life will just be steered by whatever impulse or random emotion happens to float by.
And we have to be clear. Thoughts are far from harmless. They are the initial seeds of every single action, every decision, and ultimately every failure.
Give me an example.
Well, the person who allows the persistent thought, I'm not talented enough, to just linger in their mind, that person will never invest the thousands of hours required to actually build talent. They've already decided the outcome.
They've lost before they've even started.
If you permit negative thoughts, I'm too tired, I'll probably fail anyway, to sit there unchallenged, they will absolutely shape your actions and predetermine your outcome. This discipline requires you to filter your mental input as rigorously as you'd filter the food you eat.
So the source outlines a critical 2-step process for this discipline of thought management. Step 1 is just simple awareness.
It sounds simple, but it's not easy.
Right. Most people live on autopilot. They assume their thoughts are immutable facts, when in reality they're often just old narrative loops of opinions or echoes of past failures.
Right.
How do we cultivate that awareness in this intense, focused way?
It's a practice of constant internal vigilance. It's metacognition. You have to learn to step outside your own head and observe your
You
thoughts.
have to stop, notice the thought, and then ask a question about it.
Exactly. You ask, what am I thinking right now? Is this thought a neutral observation, or is it a feeling that's disguised as a fact? And most importantly, is this thought leading me forward, or is it an anchor holding me back?
The mere act of questioning the thought separates you from it.
It creates that necessary mental distance. You realize you are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts.
And that separation gives you the power for step 2, which is replacement.
Yes, because the mind, as we know, abhors a vacuum. Simply telling yourself, stop thinking negatively, is completely useless. It doesn't work.
It's like telling someone not to think of a pink elephant.
Exactly. You have to actively restructure the thought. You must replace the negative with the constructive. What does that active replacement look like in a moment of doubt?
It's deliberate substitution. So if your mind supplies that highly destructive thought, this is too difficult, I can't do this.
You immediately, forcefully replace it with a constructive command. I may struggle, but I can learn and improve. I will begin the first 5 minutes now.
Or if your mind says, I deserve to rest.
You replace it with, I deserve the pride of completion. I will rest when the work is done. It's active mental gardening. You have to violently pull the weeds and then deliberately plant the seeds of self-efficacy.
And we have to also consider the external inputs that feed this inner dialogue. It's not just what's generated internally.
That's a huge point. The news you consume, the conversations you have, the social media you scroll through. If you surround yourself with complaining, cynical, negative voices, you will inevitably adopt their thought patterns.
Garbage in, garbage out.
If you are serious about this kind of discipline, you must create an informational environment that exclusively feeds your mind with clarity, focus, and purposeful direction.
This leads us seamlessly into the next part. Strict self-direction versus negative self-talk. Chapter 5 addresses the fact that negative talk often masquerades as kindness.
Or self-soothing. It's okay, you've worked hard enough for today.
Right. And strict self-direction is the essential antidote to that. You have to learn to speak to yourself not as a gentle encourager, and certainly not as a harsh critic, but as a firm, non-emotional leader giving necessary orders.
Why is that authoritative, firm tone so necessary? Why not a softer approach?
Because precision is key. Vague encouragement, like, looking in the mirror and vaguely saying, I can do it, is weak. It's easily overridden by the emotional limbic system.
It's like trying to fight a fire with a water pistol.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
Precise, authoritative commands, however, eliminate the room for excuses. You don't tell yourself, be more focused later. You tell yourself, write the next paragraph now.
Or turn off the phone, set the timer for 30 minutes, and focus exclusively on this core task.
That precision cuts through the vagueness that negative self-sabotaging talk thrives on.
And the seriousness of your internal tone dictates the seriousness of your action. If you treat your own words to yourself as conditional or lighthearted, your actions will naturally be light.
So if your mind offers resistance, I just don't feel like getting up, you have to respond with unequivocal authority.
Like a commander. Do it now. The feeling is irrelevant.
The practical application of this principle is really powerful. We'd advise you, the listener, to take your 3 most common recurring excuses, the lies you tell yourself daily, and write them down.
Get them out of your head and onto paper.
And then, underneath each lie, you must write the corresponding strict, action-oriented command that eliminates the loophole. For instance, you replace, I am too tired, with,
I will begin for 5 minutes regardless of my perceived energy, because action creates its own energy.
That exercise, that's how you retrain your inner dialogue to serve your goals, not sabotage them. Strict direction gives you the hard truth. You may not feel ready, you may not feel capable, but you are absolutely capable of action.
And that internal honesty, while it might be momentarily harder to hear than some comforting lie, it builds an unshakable foundation for real discipline.
The ultimate aim is to build a voice inside you that is completely trustworthy. A voice that commands, directs, and expects obedience from you.
Okay, so we've focused a lot on internal control, but discipline isn't built in a vacuum. It's not just you against yourself in a quiet room.
Right. Chapter 6 of the source reminds us that comfort is maybe the most insidious enemy of all, because its primary weapon is whispering that there's no urgency.
You have plenty of time. This can wait.
Exactly. So to break the tyranny of comfort, the disciplined individual has to proactively leverage external forces. And the main one is pressure.
Pressure is the anti-comfort mechanism. I mean, look at almost any situation in your life where you performed at a high level. There was likely a deadline, a commitment, a financial constraint involved.
That wasn't a sudden burst of talent or motivation?
No, that was external pressure forcing clarity and demanding action. So the real discipline hack here is learning how to apply that pressure to yourself before life or external circumstances do it for you, often when it's too late.
Okay, let's run through the specific self-applied pressure hacks the source recommends for breaking out of that comfort state.
The first one is accountability. This one's tough for a lot of people. When you keep a goal private, its failure is also private. There are no social consequences.
It's easy to quit when no one is watching.
But telling someone your goal, and especially making it public in some way, it introduces weight, it introduces psychological pressure, it removes the option of slipping back quietly because now you have external social pressure to follow through. It's uncomfortable, but highly effective.
Okay, what second?
Shorten deadlines. A goal without a deadline is, as the saying goes, just a wish. But we need to be aggressive here. Compress time.
What do you mean by that?
If a project would naturally take, say, 3 weeks, challenge yourself to complete the urgency forces you to cut distractions, it eliminates the paralysis of perfectionism, and it demands ruthless prioritization.
If you don't shorten the timeline, comfort will always expand your timeline to months or even years.
Always. Third is financial pressure. Invest your own money in your commitment.
Skin in the game.
Exactly. Buy the equipment. Pay for the advanced class. Book the non-refundable flight to attend the conference you need to be at. When you have money on the line, especially a significant amount, you create immense pressure to use what you paid for.
The fear of wasted capital is often a much stronger immediate motivator than the vague promise of some future success.
When there's nothing to lose, comfort always takes over.
And the fourth hack. This one is the most intense. Visualization of cost.
This isn't just positive thinking, it's the opposite.
Right, this isn't about just thinking, I hope I succeed. This is about creating emotional pressure by vividly, painfully picturing the regret of failure. The source actually recommends taking 5 minutes to fully visualize the consequence of continuing to choose ease over effort.
What will your life look like in 5 years if you maintain your current level of avoidance and procrastination? Really feel that. The wasted potential, the opportunities lost.
That emotional reminder, it cuts through the false gentleness of comfort, and it instills a genuine productive sense of urgency. You're leveraging the fear of regret, which is a profound motivator, to compel action in the present.
And all of this pressure, both internal and external, links directly to our discussion of mental toughness in Chapter 7, choosing effort over relief.
Mental toughness, at its core, is just the sustained ability to choose the painful path of effort, even when that warm, inviting path of relief is constantly beckoning to you.
The key to this ability is understanding what the source calls the pain differential. We have to stop running from all pain indiscriminately. There's good pain and bad pain.
Explain that.
The discomfort of sustained effort, the 15 minutes of hell on the treadmill, the aching focus required to finish that tough report, that pain is temporary. When the work is done, the pain fades, and what's left is the reward of competence and progress.
Okay, so what's the other side of that?
The weakness and regret that come from constantly chasing relief. That pain lasts much, much longer. When you surrender to comfort, the immediate pleasure fades rapidly. But the regret and the arrested development, they can linger for years, a lifetime even.
So we have to train ourselves to value the long reward over the short escape.
That's the entire game. And it means we have to stop seeing effort as punishment, which is how the weak mindset frames it.
Effort isn't punishment, it's training.
Yes.
Every difficult task, every moment of sustained mental focus is a workout for your mind and a practice for resilience. The disciplined person welcomes effort because they understand it is the only path to strength.
And to anchor yourself to this principle, you need to set non-breakable, strict personal rules. These rules prevent you from collapsing back into comfort when you're tired or stressed.
The source gives some great examples of these anchors, things like, I will not check social media until my most critical task for the day is completed.
Or, I will not go to sleep until the daily required target is 100% finished. These non-negotiable rules create a structural scaffold that keeps you aligned with effort, even when your emotions are rebelling and screaming for relief.
And finally, a point we touched on earlier but is critical here. We have to embrace the initial resistance, that moment of maximum friction.
Remember, the hardest part of any task is always the very beginning. The first 5 minutes.
You have to commit to just pushing through those first few minutes of resistance, because once the brain and body adjust and that initial inertia is overcome, the effort becomes significantly more manageable.
If you surrender in those first 5 minutes, you build a habit of quitting. If you push through, you build the foundation of resilience, brick by brick.
Okay, this brings us to a crucial point about efficiency. Discipline is not just about being busy. It's not defined by activity. It's defined by progress in essential areas.
Yes, Chapter 9 emphasizes this. Undirected energy is fundamentally wasted energy.
We've all had those days. You work hard all day long, you feel exhausted, but at the end of it, you feel empty and unfulfilled.
Because you haven't moved the needle on what truly matters. Every single day, you start with a limited supply of sharp, focused energy. If you scatter that precious energy across low-impact, trivial tasks, you'll always be busy but never productive.
So a disciplined life is measured only by the progress achieved in, the top 3 to 5 tasks that fundamentally shape your future.
Exactly. The strategy here is twofold: clarity and fierce protection. First, you must define those essential areas, and then second, you must guard your energy ruthlessly from the outside world.
From demands, from interruptions, and especially from what the source calls the noise.
We need to clearly identify false productivity because this is where most of our energy hemorrhages. False productivity is the performance of tasks that feel like work but generate zero genuine impact.
What are the common culprits of this kind of self-sabotage?
Oh, it's the constant checking of low-value, high-frequency sources, emails, news feeds, text messages. Every time you do that, you're breaking your focus and wasting energy.
It's also that endless organization we mentioned earlier, tweaking the system instead of executing the contents of the system.
And over-researching, adding yet another book to the reading list instead of actually applying the concepts from the first one you read.
These activities provide a momentary hit of low-level reward that mimics accomplishment.
But they drain your limited, high-quality energy. The disciplined person constantly halts their own activity and asks, is this action directly moving me forward on one of my top priorities? If the answer is no, they stop immediately.
And crucial to this energy management is optimizing your peak hours.
This is a huge leverage point. We all have hours in the day when our focus is sharpest, when our creative power is at its highest. The disciplined individual identifies those peak energy windows, whether it's early morning or late at night, and they reserve that high-value energy only for the most important, high-impact work.
They guard that time fiercely.
Fiercely. They do not use their peak morning hours to answer trivial emails or schedule low-impact meetings. They dedicate the absolute best of their mental resources to the most challenging, most future-defining tasks.
That single decision acts as a multiplier on their results.
A huge multiplier. They're directing their highest quality resources to their highest quality work. It's just common sense, but so few people do it.
Now let's turn to the internal battles that try to steal that focused energy. The impulses. Chapter 8 discusses fighting impulses by truly internalizing their cost.
Impulses are just quick urges for instant short-term pleasure, skipping the required work, indulging in destructive habits, and they act as short-term thieves.
Short-term thieves, I like that. They're robbing your long-term strength and your future identity.
And these urges are incredibly dangerous because they temporarily blind you to the future. They convince you to focus exclusively on the immediate comfort. The skipped workout feels good right now in this moment.
But tomorrow you feel weaker, you feel slower, and you have to carry the regret of that decision.
That regret, that cost projection, that's what the impulse successfully hides from you in the moment.
So the secret weapon against this is the cost projection mechanism. When that urge hits, whether it's to check your phone, eat the junk food, or just quit the project, you must pause.
You have to force a pause.
And in that pause, you project yourself 3 hours, 3 days, or even 3 years into the future. You vividly visualize the pain, the guilt, and the regret of surrendering to that immediate urge.
That visualization creates the necessary emotional weight to cut through the immediate false pleasure of the urge. It brings the distant consequence crashing into the present moment, making the choice crystal clear.
Mental strength, then, lies entirely in creating that gap of control, that pause between the urge and the action.
If you can just hold the line in that gap, if you can remind yourself of the long-term pain you are avoiding by acting correctly now, the impulse, which is always temporary, will pass. It loses its power over you.
And this ultimately reinforces the overarching principle we've been circling this whole time. Discipline is the choice of pain.
It is.
Most people run from all pain, seeking comfort. But the disciplined person realizes they must choose. You have to choose the pain that serves you
The temporary productive discomfort of effort.
over the pain that destroys you. The permanent, lingering pain of regret, weakness, and missed opportunity.
The goal is not to eliminate impulses. That's impossible. They're inherent to the human condition. They will always arise. The goal is to control them through a clear, long-term vision and an unwavering commitment to obey your own non-negotiable rules.
So we have journeyed through this brutal, but I think incredibly necessary manual. We've gone from refusing the fundamental negotiation with laziness all the way to the meticulous protection of our focused energy.
It's a lot to take in, but it's a complete system.
It is. And the core identity shift, the lasting takeaway for you listening, is profound. Discipline is not a trait you are born with. It is the inevitable result of forcing repetition and obedience until the behavior becomes so deeply ingrained, so natural, that it is simply who you are.
It's no longer a choice you make. It's your default setting.
You stop being the kind of person who waits for inspiration, and you become, functionally, the kind of person who acts regardless of feelings.
And that transformation, it grants you a very rare kind of freedom.
How so?
When your thoughts, your actions, and your energy are directed solely by the standards and commitments you set for yourself, you are no longer a victim. You're not a victim of your feelings, of circumstance, or of your own internal impulses.
You're no longer controlled by the chaos of the outside world or the weakness within.
You become unstoppable. And not in some hype-filled motivational poster way. You become unstoppable because you have systematically trained yourself to follow through. You rely on who you have become, on the conditioned default that accepts nothing less than action.
The source material notes that this entire transition, the shift from a life of just potential to a life of actual execution, it all begins with a single, immediate moment.
It's not a long process to start.
No, it's the moment you stop debating. The moment you stop negotiating with weakness. And look, knowledge is only power when it is applied.
So we have to end with a provocative thought for immediate action. For you, right now, look at your surroundings. What small, difficult action have you been delaying for the last hour, the last day, or maybe even the last week?
What tiny item on your to-do list represents a moment where you usually start to negotiate with yourself?
That moment is your starting line.
So the challenge is this. What small, non-negotiable action are you going to take immediately? Not tomorrow, not in 5 minutes, but right now, the second this ends, to prove that you are done negotiating with weakness.
Go